Today on the podcast, we have Earl Kapule. I probably mispronounced your last name. Earl, Earl is currently, I believe, currently in the solar industry, and you're doing your own coaching as well. And you have kind of lived in the West Coast for a while, but moved recently to the East Coast, if I understand correctly from your website.
Yep.
But you have a wealth of knowledge as far as door knocking, solar industry, kind of getting over objections and things like that. But if you could get started with just giving us a little bit of insight of who you are today.
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Earl Kapule. I now reside in Florida. We're up in the Panhandle, Panama City. And what I do today is help people with their mindset. So mainly mental and emotional health, a little bit of physical health because it all ties in together. So my main passion, my main purpose is to help people improve their mental and emotional capacity so that everything else in their life improves along with it.
Okay. So I would like, I'm really interested in people's stories and how they came to be where they are currently. So if we were to go back into middle school, high school, who were you back then?
Yeah. So middle school and high school. So middle school, I was very quiet. Didn't talk to a lot of people and was made fun of a little bit for my weight and the way I dressed. We were poor, so I couldn't get the nicest clothes. So made fun of, quiet. And then high school, the summer between 8th and ninth grade, I decided I'm going to lose weight, try to find better looking clothes, and start fresh in high school. So in high school, I found my crowd that I wanted to be around, and I was happier, a little bit more outgoing. I spoke a little bit more. I became like just a laid back, funny guy in high school.
So you mentioned the crowd that you kind of came up about or became a part of. What was that crowd like?
Yeah. So in Hawaii, I hung around with two main groups. One was the surfers. So people that went to the beach all the time. We loved just going to the beach every weekend. And then there was another group where we loved music and to dance. We would go to like the all age clubs and dance. So dancing and surfing were two big things for me. And we just hung out and talked about those things.
Okay. And at that time, would you say you knew yourself in terms of your personality as being more introverted or extroverted, outgoing? Like, who were you back then?
Definitely more introverted, even though around the people I was close to and comfortable with, I talked a lot, I made them laugh. But outside of the group, I would be quiet and kind of just observe people.
Okay. And what kind of a student were you in school? Were you like an A student, a C student? What were you
Yeah,
like?
I was an average student. So two things I remember clearly that my dad would always say is don't do drugs and get good grades. So that always stuck with me. So throughout school, I didn't really get into drugs during high school and stuff. And as far as good grades, I just got good enough grades to get by to make it just because I wasn't super interested in a lot of the subjects.
Okay. And then when it came to your like 12th grade, you being a senior in high school, um, what kind of influence did you have in your life as far as people telling you go to college or go to work or go to military or go do whatever it is? Like who was in your ear as far as giving you advice, and what kind of advice did they give you?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of people influencing me in that way. So both of my parents were drug addicts during the time that I was in high school and middle school. And so throughout most of my high school life, I lived with my sister. She was in her younger 20s at that time, and she helped raise me during that time. And she always let me know, whatever you want to do after school. But I had one friend, one night we were at a bowling alley, and he was saying, what are you going to do after high school? And I was like, I don't know. And he said, well, my uncle is in the carpenters union and he makes this much. And every 6 months, as long as you're working and you put in the hours, every 6 months you get a raise. And like in 4 years, you're gonna get paid this much, and you have all these benefits, etc. So then I kind of went that route right after high school, just because of that.
Okay, so you got introduced into the trades like right after high school through your friend there. Kind of before getting into that part of your career, I'm just curious about Hawaii in general. Like a lot of people from outside the world, they're like, "Oh, Hawaii, I want to go there on vacation. You know, it's a great place." It's like, tell us a little bit about Hawaii, like how you grew up there. What are great things about it? What are bad things about it? Like, give us a little bit more insight into it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for people that vacation there, it's the best thing in the world, you know? And it's not to say everybody that grew up in Hawaii had it hard, but a good amount of people that are from there, that grew up there, have a hard time because it's so expensive to work there. And then the work opportunities kind of don't match up with the cost of living. And so some people have to work two jobs. You know, if you have kids and you're working multiple jobs, it can be very difficult. Like my dad worked while my mom took care of us. And so we hardly saw my dad. So we struggled. Me growing up as a child, I just saw us struggling financially. There were times where our light bill wasn't paid, so we didn't have electricity for a couple of days, or the water bill didn't get paid. We didn't have water for a few days. And the food, it was always, you know, very low cost food. So a good portion of my childhood, I just experienced lack. And then yeah, people when I moved to San Diego, people are like, "Oh, why'd you leave?" Like it can be expensive, it can be difficult. Not to say it's not possible. It's just with my background and the support system that we had growing up, it was difficult.
Yeah, and if I understand correctly, you're like the native, right, of
Yeah,
Hawaii.
yeah. So my father's Hawaiian and mother's Filipino, but Filipinos have been there for a long time as well. So most people are Hawaiian or Filipino or some type of Asian.
Okay, and I remember a few years back, maybe, and I forget the name of the guy, but he was in the NFL. He was Hawaiian as well. I'm just kind of curious if it made like being a more native, like having to go through the hardship of life, does it make you work harder to achieve something, or how does that dynamic work?
I believe so. You know, growing up, my dad was an iron worker in the union, so he built bridges, highways, roads, things like that. And so I witnessed him just working really hard to provide for the family. And he was also the type of person that, you know, if something broke, he figures out how to fix it. Instead of buying another one, we'll figure out how to fix it. And so I grew up around hard work and figuring it out. And so, yeah, that translated into carpentry. I was a pretty hard worker to where I moved up fairly quickly because that was programmed into me to just always try to be the hardest worker no matter what.
So we went into carpentry. That was still in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
And how long did you work in carpentry in Hawaii?
Yeah, I did that for about 6 years.
Okay. Was it all kind of woodwork type of stuff, or did you do any kind of aluminum or metal kind of structures?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of both. I started out with metal framing for residential homes. We built homes using metal studs. And then I did some work with wood as well, building houses. It was mostly homes, residential homes, and yeah, both wood and metal.
Okay. And so how long was that in Hawaii? Like how long did you stay in the carpentry?
About 6 years. Yep.
Okay. So then you moved to San Diego. What was that like, and what was the reasoning for moving?
Yeah, so I was about 24 years old at that time. I got laid off from the Carpenters Union, and you know I was collecting unemployment. But during that time, like I was laid off for a good amount of time, for like about a year. And in that year, I just started going in circles, drinking almost every day. Started to smoke weed, and just partying and kind of going in circles. Didn't really have a purpose or mission or goals, you know. And I got to a point where I felt like I needed to do something else to change the scenery. And my sister had moved to San Diego. She'd been living there for a year, and you know we lived together for almost a decade. And so I was like, let me go visit her. Let me see what's out there. What else is off the island? And when I got there, I was like, whoa, it's a big place, and there's so many things to do. And I could just feel this different energy of like expansiveness and like opportunities there.
So then you visited and stayed, or you visited and then came back and then moved?
I visited for a month, and
Okay.
then I was like, yeah, let me just try this out. Like, I'm not as happy right now. I feel like I need some change, so let me just move out here. I went back, saved up for like 6 months or so, and then I moved out.
Okay. What was it like adjusting to the new environment? Like your sister was there, but you didn't really know anybody else. How did you go about making connections to people around, finding a job, and so on?
Yeah, that was a little difficult. I tried to go look everywhere else. The carpenters union out there, I was going to transfer. That was still kind of slow. This is about 2010, and it was difficult. And I was still kind of an introvert, so making friends wasn't the easiest things at first. So like the first year, they didn't really know anybody. Couldn't find work, so I was just kind of stagnant for the first year that I moved out there.
Hmm. And how did you transition from that point to finding a job and getting further
Yeah.
up?
So actually, it was a car accident. I was driving home from the gym one day on the highway, going about 65, 70, and somebody swerved into my lane, and I tried to swerve away, but they still hit me, and then I lost control, and the truck flipped. It rolled several times off of the highway to a ditch on the side of the road. Two cars behind me, there was a man that was also from Hawaii originally, and he saw my sticker of the Hawaii sticker on the vehicle right before it started to flip and roll. He saw the
Mm.
sticker and he pointed to his wife. He was like, "Hey, look, honey, somebody from Hawaii." And then seconds later, my truck flew off of the road, and then he pulled over to make sure I was okay. And turned out he was an entrepreneur. And I had never heard the term entrepreneur at that point in my life. I didn't know anything about self development. And he told me, maybe I can help you find some work, which he did. He helped me find some construction work. But he also gave me some CDs that were of Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, and I'd never heard any of these things before. So I put them in my CD and I started listening to them. I was like, wow, this is good. Like, I like it. It makes sense. I feel good by what I'm hearing. So I just kept listening to it. And then he had me try some of his MLMs, and I had to kind of change the way I operated when it came to making money and working. And I was like, oh, okay, now I got to get out there and talk to people. So I started wearing like collared shirts and ties, and I would go out in public, kind of just dressed up. And I started changing the way I thought about making money and career, and started to make that transition little by little.
Hmm. You're familiar with Zig Ziglar's like Wheel of Life,
I'm not.
where he basically like subdivides life into different categories, like personal, your physical, your mental, your family, spiritual, and so on. Kind of like breaks that down, and he
Yeah.
talks about rating yourself in each one of those and creating like a wheel. So if you rate yourself low in one of the categories, high in another one, then you have like uneven wheels. So you're like humping along or limping
Yeah.
along instead
Yeah.
of having a nice rounded wheel.
Yeah. That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah. So during all of that time, I mean, it sounds like that accident was like your turning point in both ways, like mentally because you made contact with another person who gave you some information that in some way started to transform your life, and then physically, like having an accident usually changes people as well.
Yeah, I really started to think about how, you know, precious life is and
Hmm.
how we need to be more intentional about what we're going to do every day. Because not long after that car accident, I also lost two of my friends from high school or from school that I grew up with. Both of them got into an accident. Well, there was an explosion at their work.
Hmm.
And within a second, they're gone. And so that really got me thinking of like, what do you really want to do with your life? Like, you never know when it could end. So what is it that you really want to do? And that's when I really started to think about like, what can I see myself doing that will make me happy? And like different. You don't have to go down the same road everyone else is going down. Because I chose construction. A big part of it is because everyone that I knew in Hawaii went down that road. It's either college or construction.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, let's try something different. Let's see if we can do something different with my life.
So how did you go about the process of figuring out what you really wanted to do with your life?
I just started thinking of different things that. So first thing I did, one thing I did know for sure for a long time, even when I was as a carpenter, was I want to do something that makes people's lives better. Always knew that, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way. But with carpentry, I did get some fulfillment from it. But one thing it was missing is the seeing the impact. Like I didn't get to see people move into the home that I helped build, right? So there was no interaction with the people that was impacting. And so I figured out in San Diego that I want to do something where I get to interact with people and help them, even though I'm kind of introverted. And so the first idea that came to my mind was firefighter.
Okay.
Like one of those childhood dreams, right? But so that was the first route I decided to go. I took the EMT course, I started studying for it, things like that. And that was just one of the first things that I decided to try where I could impact somebody, personally.
Yeah. And how did that go? You went through the training school, and then after that?
Yeah. So I was getting close to finishing the school. And at the end, there was a paragraph in the book I was reading that said, rarely do people die of old age. And I was like, And then it listed all the other things. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, rarely do people just live their full life without anything happening to them. Then it made me think, firefighters, when they get to a call, what's happening? Usually, because I learned in the course that a lot of the calls are heart attack and strokes. Like, it's rarely fires. It's not as much fires. It's more heart attack and somebody's sick and they're the first responders. So I was like, I'm going to get there when they're almost dead. So it really shifted my perspective to, okay, let's figure out how to catch people on the front end. Then I got into lifestyle coaching, diet, exercise, a little bit of the mental and emotional help as well. So I did that for a few years where I went to a different school and I studied how to help people's physical, emotional, and mental, spiritual life so that they don't get to the point where they have disease.
Mm-hmm. So you and you mentioned you went to school. I didn't ask you about like any kind of college experience and so on. Have you gone through, like, gotten any kind of degree or just certificates or anything like that?
So no real college degrees. For carpentry, they did send us to school for a couple of years to get a certificate for trade school. And then the EMT course, I took that. And then the third one was the lifestyle coaching to become a certified lifestyle coach. But other than that, no degrees.
Okay. So you became basically a lifestyle coach at that time, and you did that for a little bit. Why did you transition into a different industry afterwards?
Yeah. So I did lifestyle coaching for a while. I never really grew that business. It was just something I kind of did for fun. I did it at my church. I held cooking classes. I did a little bit of door knocking with it. I would knock doors, and part of the program that I took to become a lifestyle coach, they had us knock doors and ask people if they would like just free kind of coaching, lifestyle coaching. And we would come and share with the whole family how to eat better and exercise, things like that. So I did that for a while, but then one day I was in the hospital. I had surgery, and after surgery, a friend of mine came into the hospital and said, "What do you do for work? Are you currently working?" And I told him, I do lifestyle coaching, but it's not really like consistent. And he said, "Well, I'm the manager at a solar company. If you want to come and be a site surveyor, where you'll measure," because I told him I did construction in the past. And he said, "Okay, are you scared of heights? Can you go on the roof?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." And he said, "Yeah, we'll have you measure roofs for site surveys." But I had to go on a mission trip in the Philippines for a month. And after that, when I came back, it was taken. So then he invited me to the sales side of solar.
Mm-hmm. And in sales, you mean kind of the first step, which is door knocking.
Yep. He said, hey, sales is open. We knock doors and we help people put solar panels on their house. I didn't know what like how they worked or anything. And he said, yeah, we help them sign up. It doesn't cost them anything. And then it lowers their electricity bill. And I immediately red flag. I was like, it sounds like a scam. I'm good. I've done MLMs before. I don't want to get involved with anything like that. And he was persistent, and he kept saying, no, I think you should really try it. I know your personality. I know people would like to talk to you. They would like your energy, and I think you'll do really well at it. So he said, just at least come to a meeting, come to one of our weekly meetings, and then let me know what you think at the end of that.
Yeah. So being an introvert, I'm an introvert as well, actually. And being an introvert, like the one thing I don't like is meeting new people. Not that I don't like to meet new people, but like having to like come up with something to say to them and so on. Once I'm comfortable with somebody, I can talk. But just getting out there to new people is a little bit hard for introverts. So going door to door, meeting new people on daily basis, multiple people per day, and so on. What was that like for you?
Yeah, in the beginning, I was very hesitant and I was nervous, but I had done a little bit of it, right, in the past with lifestyle coaching. And with lifestyle coaching, it was a little different just because I had a lot of knowledge in that area and I was very passionate in the sense that, some people are going to say no, they don't need the help, and some people are waiting for somebody to come to their door and talk about health, or like they have diabetes or whatever the case. So it's easier in that sense. With solar, because I didn't know much about it, I have all these thoughts of like, oh, what if they ask me questions and I don't know the answer, or they get really mad that I came to their door. So I wasn't as passionate about solar in the beginning. But what made it easy was they told me knock 500 doors with multiple reps of ours, and we'll pay you $500 for that, and then you can decide if you want to do it or not after the 500 doors. And I was like, that sounds like a good deal. And so doing that, watching people knock, going to 500 different doors and conversations with people, and seeing different people with different backgrounds actually gain people's trust and get into the home and sign people up, gave me the confidence that I needed to say to myself, oh, I can do this too. If all these people can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah, so just experience itself gave you that motivation to continue to do it.
Yeah.
How long were you in like on that front end of sales, door knocking?
Man, so I knocked doors all the way up until last year. 2022 was my last year, is when I kind of transitioned into virtual sales. But I knocked doors for 9 years. Within the first year, I became the manager of that company. And then, so I managed that company for a couple of years. And then about my third or fourth year in, I started my own solar sales organization, did that for a little bit. And then I went back into a management position for another company for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever doing kind of the back end, not the back end, but like the closer, being a closer instead of being the front end, like door knocker for sales?
I've never been an only a closer, but I have been only a setter. So most of my career has been setter closer. But there
Okay.
was a time where I tried out only setting just so I could like get really good at it. Because I found when I tried to do both at the same time, it was hard to see big improvements on both ends, because on multiple days when I filled my week up, then I have no time to knock. And so I decided I need to step back from closing, pass it to a really good closer, get even better at the setting so that I can consistently set. Even if I have less time, I can set consistently.
Mm-hmm. How did you get over objections, like the no objection, like people saying, no, I'm not interested, like after you get 10, 20 of them in a row or something like that, usually people get down and they're like, is this really for me? Do I really want to continue with this? How did you get over it?
Yeah, I mean, first couple of years, I had so many days and weeks like that where I had a slump and I was like, man, I got to figure this out because I was on an only commission. I worked with a company where they only paid commissions. So I had to figure it out. So part of it was I had already been doing self-development for a while, listening to people like Jim Rohn, even Gary Vee. At that point, I just started listening to Gary Vee, and all of those people had already talked about objections. So I had to remind myself of how it only means two things. One, rejection is a reflection of what's going on in that person's life, right? They could have said no really quickly to me because something else is going on and they don't have the bandwidth to be here at the door with me. So they're the quickest way to get rid of me to just say, no, I'm not interested. It's not that they're not interested in what I'm doing or who I am. It's just that they really don't have the capacity and time to do it. So that's the reflection. The other meaning is the rejection is a reflection of your current skill set and current knowledge, current ability. So I take it two ways. One, I'll come back to them. They didn't say no to my opportunity because I didn't get to present it fully. And two, how can I make an improvement going to the next door around whatever happened there? And then that caused me to just improve. Every time an objection came up or a rejection came up, it just caused me to immediately make a small improvement and not take it personal.
Yeah. So you've been doing that up to, you mentioned last year, especially during COVID, there was a lot of like, everybody's got to stay inside and so on. So a lot of it transitioned to online. What was that transition like for you? And what did you learn through that transition?
Yeah, in that transition, I had to one look within as far as kind of figure out what is another way I can do this. Obviously there's no way I can go door knocking right now. What can I do? And social media, everybody, all of a sudden I saw everybody in solar start posting on social media. And I had been telling people this for years and I had already been posting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so now that everybody wanted to post, it was also an opportunity for me to do trainings on that. So now I started to train the industry on social media. I held some trainings, and that's when like it really started to shift into full-time coaching and consulting.
Mm-hmm.
When I
And
saw that there's a lot of people on doors that would like to make the transition if they knew how.
yeah, what do you think about today? So the pandemic, it's kind of came and went in a way. We're back to being open, although there's like blips of closing or whatever it is. But for the most part, we can come out and door knock again. What do you think? Where do you think the industry is in terms of door knocking? Is it ever going to go back to full time like that, or is it going to be like a hybrid between social and door knocking?
Yeah, I think the way I see door knocking now is it's a stepping stone in your solar career. Now, it's okay if you keep doing it, but I believe that most people don't want to keep doing it if there's another route that would give them the same or better results. And with the way people are using technology more, people are more open to signing up for solar online or over the phone. There are going to be a lot more people making that transition. Maybe they'll do both. Maybe they'll switch fully. It's going to depend on the individual. Some people will want to be at home more with their family. Other people are single, no family. I'm going to be on the doors because it is pretty effective where I can sign up multiple people in a day because I can meet them today and sign them up. So it's going to be a mixture, but I do believe if you have a family and you have other dreams and goals that you're already working on beyond solar, then you're transitioning to the point where you're using less time and energy and effort and leaving your house less to get the same amount of results.
Mm-hmm. So we'll get to your like coaching business and so on. I want to spend a little bit of time on that. But before doing that, just overall, when you're looking back at your life, what are some highlights and lowlights of your life that you would want to share?
Yeah. Highlights is, I mean, one of the biggest highlights for me was being promoted to managerial position in my first year, within my first year. And that helped me to pinpoint what got me there. And which for me, which was, so in my first year, what helped me the most to get promoted faster was put in the hours. So I set my schedule for like 40 hours a week and I was out in the field 40 hours a week, put in the hours to putting myself around the people that are having success and learning from all of them. So I would ask all the people on my team that was constantly producing, say, hey, I'd like to go with you knocking. I want to go with you in a close. And I just take notes and I'm just consuming all of that. And then 3, working on myself hard and a lot, just consistently. I would listen to podcasts in and out of the field, audiobooks. And then that first year was just a lot of learning about sales, communication, door knocking, learning from different people that are experts in these areas. And I did those 3 things, and I believe that's what's got me there in the first year. And then the lows. So the lows came, maybe somewhere between year 2 and 3, when I felt stagnant, and like especially when I wanted to start my own solar sales org, and I was having a difficult time scaling and growing it. It caused me to look within and say, maybe you just don't enjoy this, right? It doesn't mean you suck at it or you're not good at it. Maybe just there's another route you can go still within the industry that would make you happier. Like people need to understand that not everyone is going to be good at being a CEO and running a company because that's not their personality and they don't enjoy it. And so I went down the route of staying a manager, but being a different type of manager where I get personal and I coach them through it. Like I really teach them how to become a leader and how to move their way up and figure out who they want to be. And so that in my lows, I always ask myself, what do I need to learn here so that I can keep going upwards again? So the lows or the stagnant for me has always been times to learn. Whereas when times are going up and I'm high, then I've mastered whatever I just recently learned.
Mm-hmm. In your life, like, what does family, like, what kind of impact does family have on you? Or what role does family play in your life?
Yeah, I mean, even though our family was kind of chaotic growing up, my sister really showed me how, you stick together no matter what people have done in your family, good or bad. We just stick together and help each other no matter what through things. Um, and it's helped me to translate that into teams, into the people I work with, just knowing that everybody's trying their best
Mm-hmm.
and we need to help them and support them regardless of that. Yes, set your boundaries and don't get into any dangerous or toxic situations, but always keep in mind that people are already doing their best and all you can do is kind of help them and support them.
Mm-hmm. How about faith? Like, in terms of your life and what you've gone through and so on, and how you got to this point, how has faith like impacted you?
Yeah. So there was a period in time, I think it was from 2011 to about 2017. I was a part of a Christian faith. And in the beginning, I definitely joined it for the community. I needed a community. Like I was saying, I was having a hard time meeting people, right? And at that church, they had a young adults group that met frequently. So that helped me a lot. I had community. We spoke about positive things. We helped each other to improve our lives using the Bible. And that helped develop me in a lot of different ways. I learned a lot of things about leadership because I helped with leadership in the church as well over time. And then it got to a point for me in 2017 where my wife and I had decided that it was no longer benefiting us, and we kind of outgrew that faith to the point where we had to go explore more, and we knew that there were other truths out there. And so at this point, I believe that there are truths in everything, and I like just finding all the different truths and bringing it all together. Anything that is going to continually improve my life, I believe it's good for me. And then I kind of just there's some things that cause resistance and make me feel bad. I leave those things alone.
What was what was it that kind of turned you away from Christianity in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I found that depending on the denomination, depending on the actual church you go to, the location, that specific church, oftentimes the pattern that I saw was that they talked a lot about what not to do, what you shouldn't do. These are the things that God doesn't love and only leads to bad things. But they didn't talk, at least in my experience, a whole lot about what we should do, what we
Mm-hmm.
could do, what are going to improve the emotions that we feel. Instead of just saying, "Hey, you just pray," being a little bit more practical and giving us some actual exercises. For me, and at least the one that we went to, we saw some toxicity to the point of judgment. There's always judgment, and so my wife and I decided we wanted a little bit more freedom and kind of figure things out together as a team and define God and connect with God directly
Mm-hmm.
versus kind of learning from other people's experiences. It can be helpful, but for us, we had our share of good and bad experiences.
Yeah. When it comes to financial management, like wealth management, money management, what have you learned throughout your life?
I mean, a good amount of my life, I learned that our family, our parents, didn't know what they were doing, right? And they weren't taught anything about it. So then as an adult, I didn't know anything about it. Didn't learn much about it in school. Had to kind of figure it out. And it was only until I got into entrepreneurship and more specifically solar sales, where I started to hear different terms and learning more about taxes and LLCs and things like that. So I would say only in the last 9 years did I really start to take a look at financial education as something that's really important.
What's like one most important thing you feel like you learned in that process about financial education or financial management?
That it's good to work to make money, but it's even better for your money to work for you.
Yeah.
and so that over the last few years, I've been really kind of looking for all the different ways I can utilize my time to bring in money and then use that money to then have it work for me and bring bigger ROIs.
Hmm. When it comes to your physical health, exercising, eating right, and so on, what is it like? Do you have some routines that you would share that you would recommend to people? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for eating healthy, I don't have anything that's super specific. I was vegan for a while, for several years, and I was a vegetarian for a while. So like the last 13 years, I've been on and off of being vegetarian. So my recommendations would always be add more vegetables, healthier proteins, beans, nuts, grains, more plant-based foods into whatever you're doing already. Like, I'm not one of those people that says, hey, stop eating meat. It's not good for you. Like, I believe they have their benefit and moderation in all things. So it's kind of having that balance. My wife and I will eat chicken here and there, some fish here and there, but we like to pack in the vegetables and get creative with different sauces to make the vegetables taste better.
Hmm.
But, a lot of more things that are just grown versus kind of made from man.
Yeah.
Less processed, boxes and packages. Try not to get too many of stuff that come in boxes and packages. Exercise-wise, over the years, my routine has changed over and over again, right? I've
Hmm.
tried to figure out, like, what do I like? And sometimes I'll have a 3 to 6 month period where I like just doing calisthenics. I don't use weights. Then I'll have a period of time where I'll go to the gym. I'll get a membership for a few months and I'll go to the gym because I like that environment. So I kind of switch it up based on like just how I'm feeling. More recently, it's just been home workouts. I have a few like dumbbells and kettlebells and things. And for me, I don't try to push myself super hard. I just do a consistent workout where I just get my heart rate up a little bit, rest for a little bit, heart rate up again, rest a little bit. Because I found that those type of workouts are easier to be consistent with versus ones where you go really hard and then the next day you're like, I don't want to work out today.
Yeah. Do you have like certain routines that you feel are contributing to your success?
Yeah. So the physical exercise for sure. I try to exercise 3 to 4 times a week. So I don't even do it every day. And then my morning routines have helped tremendously. And when I talk about morning routines, more recently I've been telling people it doesn't have to be the same exact thing and in the exact same way and the exact same amount of time every day. I try to have more of an intuitive morning routine where I ask myself, how am I feeling today? Scale of 1 to 10. I'm at a 6. Okay. What do we need to do to get to a 10 before we begin our day? And I just see what comes up. Out of all the habits and tools I've created over the years, I will say maybe some gratitude and a visualization. Okay, let's do those two things, set a timer, do that, and then begin the day. But yeah, I have specific tools that I try to work with on a weekly basis. I try to get through all of those tools and exercises and I just mix them into my day. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day, sometimes it's in the evening. It's really about me recognizing if I'm in alignment or not, and if I'm not, using one of the tools to get back into alignment.
Hmm. When it comes to goal setting and kind of vision casting for yourself, for your life, and so on, have you done any kind of vision boards, anything like that?
I've never really done the vision board. I know it works. It's not that I don't believe in them. On my phone, I have like a vision board as my background. On my computer, same thing. But I never done like a physical one. My wife has, and we have it in our bedroom. Um, for me, I just like visualizing things in my mind, on my phone, and in the computer because that's where I am the most is in front of my phone, the computer, and in my mind. So
Yeah.
that helps me a lot. But I can see how having one right here next to my desk might even help even further. I just haven't really got into it yet.
But even on your phone, like you put some images together or something like that to create it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so you have created it. You just don't have like a physical
Physical one.
version
Yeah.
of it.
Hmm.
Okay.
I do
So
believe
what
they work.
what was the process of creating it? Did you like spend a lot of time on it? Did you do it kind of quickly? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. I started to just think, okay, what kind of things would I like to manifest in my life? And the electric Porsche came to my mind. I'm like, cool, let's put a picture of the electric Porsche. And then I started asking myself, like, well, what are places you want to travel to? I know you want to travel, but where do you want to travel to? Europe. Okay. Where in Europe? London. Okay. Let's look for a picture of somewhere in London. Put it on there. And I just try to get really specific. My wife and I want to go to Africa, go on a safari, stay at this place called Giraffe Manor, where the giraffes come to your hotel window and you can feed them in your window. So we put giraffes with their head through a window on there. So all these specific moments that we are moving towards, we want to put them on there and tell our subconscious that we've already done it. It's already there.
And is it something that you've done like in one session, or is it like every so often you come up with a new idea and you put something else in there?
Yeah, sometimes I'll change it up. So the first time it's just a session. I do a full session where I can create a board, and I'll use Canva, and I'll just put different things next to each other like a collage. And then, if over time I feel like I want to add something, I can just open up that file and then kind of adjust it and put new things in there for sure. Because sometimes I'll achieve them and we've been there. Cool, let's take it off, put something else on there.
Yeah. So when it comes to gratitude, how did you come up with that? Like, it seems to be like your focal point, or at least your, let's just call it focal point for you. How did you get to gratitude being the key thing for you?
Yeah. So in 2019, I was first invited to speak at a solar conference. And I'd never spoken for the solar industry at this point, and I had 60 days to prepare. So I told myself, I'm going to make a list of things that I use, tools that I use to help me on a daily basis that I can share with everyone. But I'm going to do them for 60 days, and then as I present it, I can tell them, these are the things that helped me the most in the last 60 days. So I had on the list, practice gratitude for 5 minutes, meditation, 5 minutes, visualization, 5 minutes, write your goals for the day, affirmations, all of it. And I had never practiced gratitude before at this point. But the reason I put it on there is because for a while, I've been hearing from different people, Bob Proctor, Gary Vee, and other experts that have been saying gratitude has played a big role in their success. I didn't know why, because not everybody really got into it. And that's a huge reason why I really like to focus on it, because not enough people talk about why it's so important and how you can implement it into your life. So in those 60 days, out of all the things on the list, I found that gratitude boosted my results the most in those 60 days. And so then I did some research so I can put together a presentation. And when it was done, everybody loved it. And I decided I'm going to create a brand around this, because too many people don't know all of these things. And gratitude is not a habit for them.
Yeah.
And,
So,
yep.
yeah. So basically preparing for that conference was the starting point of what you're doing now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So how did it go? Like after the conference, how did you continue to expand the idea?
So I went home, and then I said, okay, I'm going to create the gratitude mindset, create a Facebook group, and I decided to do a 365-day challenge where I would go live every day on Facebook and just share something new that I'm grateful for a whole year straight. And that started to create some buzz, and people were like, wow, are you still going? 200 days. And then I would do 30-day challenges with people in groups. And I kept doing research, and the momentum just kept building up. Everybody loved it. They're like, oh man, I did it for 7 days and it really made me feel better. And one thing I forgot to say is my wife played a huge role in this. I didn't know it in the beginning, but as I got to know gratitude more, I started to realize that my wife has appreciated me and the things that I do more than anyone else in my life. She would say thank you to me a lot for the smallest things. And I'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. Like, it's just this or just that. To me, it's no big deal. But to her, the way she expressed it and how much she appreciated it was like, it's a really big deal, made me feel good. And I'm like, so that's the power of gratitude. And a lot of us have been missing that feeling of appreciation in our life.
Mm-hmm. So, like today, what is it like as far as the gratitude mindset? Like, what are you doing with it? How are you growing it, and so on?
Yeah. And so there are multiple things that I do. Number one is I post every day. You're going to notice on social media, if you follow me on any of the platforms, I do my best to post 1, 2, or 3 times a day. Because that's how important I feel gratitude is. And not everybody's going to see my first post, but hopefully by the second or third one, they would have seen at least one of my posts that day. And so on one end, I'm just constantly educating people for free. Here's some free information about gratitude. On the next thing I do is, right now I'm doing a 30-day group coaching program. We have 40 people that are a part of this program, and we meet weekly. And I give a class, I train on one topic for them to focus on that week. And then the next week, we focus on another topic. So there's 4 core exercises that we teach at the Gratitude Mindset, and it's called the GIVE method, GIVE. My wife came up with this acronym, and it stands for gratitude, introspection or meditation, visualization, and energize. Energize is anything that energizes the body. So I didn't want to put exercise because you can put your feet on the ground and feel better. You can take a cold shower and feel better. So we teach those 4 core exercises. And then I also do one-on-one coaching. And then I also coach organizations where I can train their team, whether it be once a month or a couple of times a month. So I work in multiple capacities. But lately my focus has been group coaching and organizations.
In your research, have you done or found any kind of scientific studies or anything like that behind gratitude?
Yeah, there's tons of studies, done by Stanford, Harvard, multiple universities. Also, a doctor named Dr. Joe Dispenza. He talks about it a lot. And there was this doctor, David Hawkins. I think it was in the 70s or 80s. He wrote a book called The Power of Force. And he talked about how our emotions give off different frequencies. You can measure the body, and the frequencies that we vibrate at are different when we change emotional states. And so on this scale, gratitude is very close to the top. It's really high up there, which is why when you show appreciation or receive appreciation, you feel better, you feel high, right? Versus low. You're having a down day, that's a lower vibration. And so gratitude, they did all kinds of studies where they had people write an appreciation letter for people in their life without even sending it out, just writing the appreciation letter. Those people were happier than the people that didn't for the next month or so. And then the people that actually sent it out were even happier. So they have been trying out different types of things to see if it helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in today's world, especially, it seems to be a big complaint about mental health today, right? Like a lot of people feel down, feel depressed, feels, all that kind of stuff. It seems like gratitude would be the antidote to it.
Yes. I believe gratitude can help in so many different challenges in our life, both mental and physical. And it's because when you look at the frequency scale, if you feel down, anxiety and depression are way down on the list. If you feel down, how do you go up? How do you feel better? Gratitude will appreciate you. I always say, what you appreciate appreciates. So if you feel worthless, that means you don't feel like you have any value. Then appreciate yourself and you'll become more valuable, or you'll feel more valuable. When you say, I'll look at myself in the mirror sometimes and say, thank you for showing up today. Immediately, I feel a little bit better. Thank you for working hard today. I know it was difficult, but you showed up anyway. Thank you for that. And that feels good, And I believe a big reason we've come to this place is because there are a lot of people that were raised in an environment where they didn't receive a lot of appreciation. They received the opposite. They received, you didn't do this right. A lot of criticism. I told you to do this. Why didn't you do this? Didn't I tell you to do? How many times do I have to tell you this? And that makes you feel really bad and worthless. And so we grow up and feel unappreciated.
Yeah. What are some other things that you would share about what you're doing today and how people can reach you?
Yeah. I tell people it's very simple. I don't want to overcomplicate it. That's why we only have 4 main tools that we use. Keep it simple. Take it slow. Be patient with yourself. It's gonna take some time to reprogram your subconscious. So I always say there's 2 main ways to change your belief system, your programming. One is repetition. We all know this. The more times you do something consistently, it becomes your habit. And then the second one is taking advantage of the theta brainwave state. Studies have shown that, in the first 5 to 10 minutes when you wake up and 5 to 10 minutes as you're falling asleep, you're in a theta brainwave state. And it's a state of hypnosis where whatever you're telling yourself, whatever thoughts are coming up, you're listening to, is going into the subconscious and becoming a part of your program. So people that wake up to affirmations and gratitude have a way better day than people that wake up to social media. And so I just tell people, be more conscious and intentional about how you start the first 10 minutes of your day and how you finish the last 10 minutes. Because most people think about the things that went wrong and are not going right in their life as they fall asleep. So more than likely, when you wake up, you're going to be thinking about the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So focus on those 2 times of your day and you're good. You're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't kind of forgot to ask you. You kind of grew up kind of in a negative environment, right? Like a lot of bad things happened in your life and so on. How did you turn that around into gratitude, like into being a person who's thankful now?
Yeah. I believe part of that is, so the people in my household, my mother and my siblings, they were physically abused, physically and mentally abused. I more so witnessed it all. So I didn't receive the physical and mental abuse directly, but I did witness it. I was in that energy. So the way it affected me was differently because it wasn't direct. And so I became an observer. That environment caused me to become an introvert because I don't want anybody to yell at me and I don't want any trouble, right? So I tried to be as quiet as possible and be as peaceful as possible so that people don't do what my dad did to my family, right? Because I saw that these types of people like that you just kind of follow the rules, stay in line, and not mess with what's going on in their life. So that did cause me to be a person that nobody ever wanted to pick a fight with. I never got into a fight in school. But everybody around me, all of my friends, they all got into fights all the time. I was always the driver. And so I was always kind of a more peaceful person. But as an adult, going through self-development, that taught me how to speak up more. So like I was already peaceful and I knew how to keep my energy kind of good, protect myself, but self-development allowed me to understand why people get so angry and frustrated and why so many issues and problems arise and exist. And it allowed me to then teach other people how to heal and, change themselves and help the other people around them change as well.
Yeah. And when it comes to self-development, what sources do you go to? Is it books? Is it podcasts? Is it other people, conferences? Like where do you get your information? How do you assimilate that information?
Yeah. For me, I've never really had a personal mentor. I've had a few managers and leaders that gave me some good tips, but I never had anybody like actually hold my hand and talk to me weekly and help me. A lot of it has been YouTube University. On all of my drives, I wasn't even using like Audible yet. Even now, I don't do too many audiobooks. If I do books, it's going to be an audiobook. But even then, I don't do that as much. I'll usually go to podcasts because for me, the way I see podcasts is you get a bunch of different information from a person that's read multiple books and has multiple experiences. So you'll get, a well-rounded presentation versus something that's focusing on one topic. So I really love hearing people's stories. So I'll learn from people's stories and then try to apply it in my life and learn the things that they learned. And that's just how I like to learn. It's more audio and visual.
Yeah. What do you see the world as in the future, near future? Let's say 10 years from now, 20 years from now. What do you see the world as? And then how do you see yourself within that world?
Yep. So I truly believe, physics is talking about this without going too deep into it, but the inner world you create will reflect in your outer world, and the people you interact with, the direction you go, a lot of it will come down to how you've programmed your inner talk and your inner world. And I've been seeing it in my own life. Like my wife and I have been doing this together as we change our inner beliefs and project it out into the world. Our life literally changes. The way we tell ourselves it changes within us. So with that said, my belief is we are going to become more aware of our habits and our patterns, and the issues that are on the outside are stemming from the inside, and more people will begin to make those changes. And I truly believe that we can, in the near future, we can see a much more peaceful world where we solve problems in a manner that does not involve killing or hurting other people. But it's going to come down to working on yourself. Everybody doing their own work. Like, imagine if everybody woke up, practiced gratitude, and meditated. There would be no murders. There would be no crimes. There would be nobody on such a low vibration that they feel they have to go out and hurt somebody today, because they have the tools so that they feel good and they don't want to hurt anybody. Is that going to happen tomorrow? No. Can it happen in the future? Yes, because resources are becoming available now. So podcasts like this and me putting out my content is actually helping people. I've been hearing it from the people coming to me and telling me, yeah, you've been helping me change my perspective, and I've been kinder to the people around me. And my wife is noticing it. Like, somebody came to me and said, my wife has told me I'm so much happier, and our marriage has improved in the last year more than the last 5 years from these simple practices. So I do believe that's where we're headed. That's based on what I'm doing every day, that we're going to move into a better world. Businesses will be run differently as well.
So how so? Like, how do you, like, differently in which way?
So I always have this recurring thought and idea of, I would love to go into a company and talk to everybody from the top to bottom and ask them, do you truly want to be here? Right? The ones that want to be here, great. I'm glad that you found the place that you want to be in. The people that are not, get them in a room with the CEOs and like talk to them about like, hey, do you want to try a different position? Maybe it's a perspective shift that you need. Or if it's a whole nother company, whole nother industry, maybe we'll put a plan together to transition you there at some point. Maybe not today, but transition you there. And then we can look at that company, see if that company has somebody who wants to be where you're at, right? Like, if more people did that, we'd have happier people in companies, and companies would be more successful. And so CEOs started to think like this: are my people happy? Gary Vee meets with all of his employees one-on-one. Hey, how do you like it? You don't like it? Let's try putting you over here. And if they don't want to be there, he would even help them find a job at a different company. Like, that's the way companies will run, is off of empathy, love, gratitude, compassion, and not, you didn't get your work done? Well, what's the matter with you? You lazy? Like, should I fire you? It's more about like, what's going on in your life? Do you need help? Is there things going on at home that's keeping you distracted? You can talk to our gratitude guy. Every company should have somebody that understands these things, that can help the workers work things through, you know? And a lot of companies don't have that. So,
do you think for that to happen, the leadership has to change? Like, you have to have more empathetic leaders rather than kind of these A-type, driver type of leaders?
Yeah, either they need to kind of add to what they already have, add that to what they already have, or bring in somebody who can do that. Because I understand that for someone in that position that is an A-type, for them, if they were to change like this, then they might have to change a lot, and they might not be happy, So, I mean, maybe it's bringing someone in, or it's going to be, they're going to see the value in this, and they're going to say, you're right, I shouldn't be doing that also on top of what I do. Because the way they operate might be beneficial to some of their people, but not all of their people.
What do you think about, like, entitlement mindset, like working against the gratitude mindset? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, I think every person at some point in their life feels entitled to something. Like, okay, I worked hard for this thing, so now therefore I should get XYZ because I worked so hard for this. Or I'm part of this family or culture or whatever it is, therefore I should get the benefits shared by all, or things like that. I feel like the more a person is entitled, the harder it is to get them to be thankful for things, to get them to like see the value in something other than whatever the selfish kind of desires are.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with that belief of anything you want, you have to work hard for it. I remember hearing a quote a long time ago: um, nothing is easy, but who wants nothing? And
Yeah.
I was like, it's weird. And I started to switch my beliefs around to I don't really have to work super hard for it. Really, at the end of the day, I have to believe that I'm worthy of it and that it'll just come to me.
Hmm.
And then the more I struggle, the harder it is. It doesn't get easier the more I struggle. Um, and so I started to see that like I can get better. I can attract things into my life. I don't have to believe like the more I want it, the harder it is to get
Hmm.
because it's just telling my mind I don't have it. But if I keep telling my mind things like if I keep showing gratitude for all the things in my life in my office and I keep focusing on things that I have, then I feel abundant. And then it's easier for me to approach harder tasks because I'm in a confident state. So I feel like with entitlement, you can kind of feel like you can get into a state of lack, which will make it difficult for you to attain it. And so when I do talk to people like that they have this type of mentality, I would explain this to them and tell them the more you remind yourself of how much you have, the easier it is to get other things that you want more of.
Yeah. It just seems to me like entitlement would be the opposite of gratitude.
Yeah.
Like if you're grateful for things, if you have a gratitude mindset, you're not thinking like, oh, that person has something that I should have, or it should be mine, or whatever kind of thing. It's like you're abundantly thankful for everything you have. You don't have time to think about what somebody else is doing or whatever.
Yeah. Well, my mind would say, man, that's awesome that that person did that and was able to do it. That's the first time I've seen someone else be able to do it. That just shows me that I can do it too, if that's truly what I want. But I do need to do it in a way where I feel good and I'm in an abundant state. It shouldn't make me feel bad that they have it. It makes me feel good. Like, cool, somebody did it. It's possible. That means I can do it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Earl. Really appreciate talking with you. Share some links, some places that people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So I'm on all social media platforms, Earl Kapule, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, my YouTube. I'm finally starting to build it. So go ahead and follow me on YouTube and subscribe. And then my website is earlkapule.com. There's a free training on there. It's the Pace of Peace training, where I kind of give an overview of all the main tools that I teach and share. So go ahead and download that, get access to my free training. And yeah, go ahead and follow me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. And next time, if we do this together, then we'll get into like some more specific topics instead of just general life overview. But yeah, been great having you on, sharing new ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerry.